On today's episode of Gathering the Kings.
In fact, here is a prediction from me. In the next 7 years, we will start to see companies going public with one employee because everything else will be done by AI. The decision process was, I just need to get the hell out of here somehow and do something better with my life. And so that has been always my thinking process. Entrepreneurship is not like a straight line up. It's always like up and down, up and down. It's like a yo-yo. But every little failure, every little setback, it teaches you a very important lesson, and that is the deposit you are making into yourself as an intrinsic value, right? So
Wow.
the only thing I look at is, am I more valuable today intrinsically than yesterday? AI is as powerful and essential as electricity or fire.
You are listening to Gathering the Kings with Chaz Wolfe, featuring fellow 7, 8, and even 9-figure business owners who have real battle scars from business and life, but have prevailed as the king that they are designed to be. We welcome high-performing entrepreneurs to the stage in order to reveal the real of the real on what it takes to build a successful business today. We dissect the good and bad decisions they've made along the way that give a true and accurate picture of the journey of success and how you too can get there. Through this dialogue, you will learn the value of growing your network and surrounding yourself with power players and kings like today's guest. Grab your pen and notebook because we're about to dive in. What's up, everybody? I'm Chaz Wolfe, Gathering the Kings podcast. I'm your host, coming back to you here today with another king on the stage. Not only does this guy have an incredible business story, but I just learned in our little pre-talk that he's got a top 0.5%. That's better than 1%. 0.5% podcast, has hundreds of episodes. I cannot wait for this conversation. Manuj Aggarwal, my brother. How you doing?
Good. Thank you so much for having me. So excited to be here.
Absolutely. The opportunity to speak to another podcast host, but also you've been guesting quite a bit. You've been making the rounds, it sounds like. Recently, you said 100 shows in the last 90 or so days. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah.
Wow. You got a story to tell.
Talk about. Well, there's a lot happening in the world of AI, and there's a lot of fear and misinformation out there. So I feel like it's somewhat of my duty and responsibility to go out there, set the record straight, because the opportunity is huge. People who adopt AI, they can hope to build generational wealth, and the consequences of not adopting it and giving into the fear is extinction. So that's why I feel the responsibility to spread the word a little bit.
Yeah, well, it's a big deal. If you haven't figured out, we're talking about AI, really his business journey, but Manuj's genius, I guess, really is AI. And I know that you kind of chuckle when we say things like AI. I got that from the notes as well from my team. But tell us what kind of business that you have first, who you serve, how you serve, and then let's get into your story because I think this is going to be so interesting.
Yeah, so basically our business is software consulting. We work with small to medium sized businesses, startups. We have helped many startups bring their ideas to life, build the product, bring it to market, scale it. A couple of startups we helped recently, they went public in 2 years and 5 years respectively. They are both worth $50 million each. We built a large system for Fortune 500 company in education space that started to produce that was producing about $400 million annually within 5 years of launch. So we have a lot of experience in various industries: healthcare, education, real estate, all of these. Basically, as you said, our genius is just looking at a business problem, working with the business owner or the executive or whoever the sponsor of the project is, and bringing their ideas to life through technology, software.
Yeah, I love that. I think all entrepreneurs would love a guy like you in their pocket, just to, like you said, make my vision come to reality,
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so you've done this for some really big names. The Rolodex or the resume rather is super long and very impressive. Why do you do this though? You gave us the duty factor on AI. That's why you're here to tell a story. I got that. But And we'll get more into that.
When we dive into my story, you'll know that I grew up very poor. $2 a day is what I used to earn working in a factory. And of
Wow.
course, it was a very difficult life. You had to struggle for a lot. And I wanted to change my life. And I didn't know what was that avenue to take to change my life. And I learned very quickly that you have to acquire a skill that is more valuable than what you're doing currently, so that the world can pay you.
Right.
And it turned out to be software and technology. Now, when I got into software, obviously, I enjoyed it. I was good at it. So that was all good. But one thing I realized was, I can write a line of code on a source code on my computer, and then copy that source code on 1,000 machines, and it can help tens of thousands of patients, doctors, people who are students, teachers, whatever the function of that software was. It was helping tens of thousands of people in their
Yeah.
jobs, in their situation. So I know how it feels to be helpless, how it feels to be trapped, and then I realize the impact of technology and how it liberates people.
Oh,
It helps improve lives, and that's the real excitement for me. Taking a problem that people thought, oh, it's impossible, or it's too difficult, and then use the skills to solve that problem, and then when you see the happiness or the surprise on the faces of the people or who are using these systems, that's priceless.
yeah. I love the answer, but I've always the helping people, the impact, the influence. It's a very kingly answer of you, but specifically through technology, because actually the impact is like it's two major ripples. You talked about maybe the ending ripple of like the patient or the student, but the person that you're helping first is that school or that medical facility, and so it's like a double whammy with the software. You're helping
Yeah.
them, but then you're helping them solve the greater problem for their client also.
Yeah. So I'll give you some specific examples so that it makes sense. Yes, of course, we help the client who is paying to build the technology, but we actually get involved in projects where we see that is going to have a impact. Like, if somebody comes to us with a project for social media network, we probably are not going to be interested in that. But if they come to us and say, hey, we are looking to change the way we teach music. In fact, we are working with a client right now. He's a world renowned music teacher, and he wants to use artificial intelligence to teach music to millions of students. So we are working on that. There was in higher education institutions, there's a big problem where almost 30% of the students drop out of their degree programs in the first 2 years. So we used AI to solve that problem, so that we can match the right student with the right course, so that they can complete their degree programs. There are people with joint pains. That happens because they stand on their feet for their jobs all day long. And so we created a 3D printed custom orthotic device using artificial intelligence and whatnot, so that they can use that orthotic device, which is custom fitted to their shoe or their foot, and that helps with joint pains. So these are the kind of projects we get involved in. And of course, the companies we help, their value goes up. They are making sales and whatnot, but then the end user
Yeah.
benefits from all of this.
Yeah, I can see that, how that would be pretty exciting to get up to every single day. When my alarm went off this morning at 4:45, and I got up and I rubbed my eyes and thought myself I was tired. I often try to follow that thought with, I get to play the game again today, and I get to go after it today, and whatever those dreams are for that day or for that month or quarter, year, whatever. But some of those things that you're talking about are really big, and it would be pretty exciting to be part of that. I can see. I want to do your story just for a couple minutes here, a little bit out of order than I typically do, but you said $2 a day, not $2 an hour, $2 a day working in unreal conditions. You've migrated, you've done life in a completely different way than most people listening here today. So give us a little bit of that backdrop, because then I want to parlay that into your decision making into business.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, so I grew up in a small town in India, and in a developing country. India is still a developing country, but back Then 30 years ago, it was like, not a open economy as we know it today. And so there was a not a lot of opportunities for higher education or job or anything like that. So you do whatever you can. And so that was the situation. And in India, as you said, like it's not very clean and sophisticated automated machines. Everything is manual. Everything is sort of dusty and a lot of smoke and all of that. And on top of that, you have like heat, 120 degrees Fahrenheit. So I think in Celsius is like 45 to 50. So it really really hot. And the factory I used to work in, they made steel products, so you have to melt steel. So huge furnaces burning at like 1,000 degrees in that weather. So that was the situation. And obviously, you know nobody gets into something like that like happily. So
Right.
the decision process was, I just need to get the hell out of here somehow and do something better with my life. And so that has been always my thinking process. Okay, we are here. And that's again, this is part of human evolution too, right? We attain some level of comfort, and then as soon as we get used to it, we are always like, okay, what is the next level of comfort? Let me see,
Right.
how do I get there? And I think we are always just seeking that comfort, and we are able to, as a species, take short term pain to solve a problem so that we can get to the next level of comfortable life, right? So that's what drives us all, and that's what drives me. And it just happens to I just happen to realize, as I climb one step ahead, I end up helping more people, so it works out for everyone.
Yeah. What would you say to the entrepreneur who, I mean, I think we're all fear based, but there was a lot of upside for you to change your situation. There wasn't a whole lot of downside.
Mm.
And so for the entrepreneur who maybe didn't grow up in circumstances like you did, they're contemplating the up and downside of taking a risk, growing their business, investing to scale, whatever decision that they're facing. What I'm hearing you say though is that because kind of almost inevitably you didn't have a chance, you just kind of went for it. But maybe along the way you've kind of realized that I'm just going to continue to optimize this, comfort of life or the way I do the lifestyle or helping other people. It's kind of all wrapped up into I hit the next level and I just keep going up and up and up
Yeah,
and up and
yeah,
up.
yeah.
Is that kind of how it works generally? Is that the courage that we're giving
See,
that listener right now?
the thing is that a lot of people, when we talk about fear and success and all of that, people have generally one criteria, which is how much money they have in their bank balance, right? So if the money dips below a certain point, they get really really uncomfortable, and they generally at that point give up, and they say, okay, I'm gonna go get a job, and this is not working out. But what I tell people is, think about, let's say you have two bank accounts. One is a checking account, one is saving account, right? And you're taking money out from checking account and putting in savings account. Both are your accounts, so you are comfortable. You're not going to lose anything. So think of your value, your intrinsic value as a human being, as your primary account, right? Now,
It's good.
even if your money, and I have had instances where my net worth was very either close to zero or even negative. So I even after through this journey, because entrepreneurship is not like a straight line up. It's always like up and down, up and down. It's like a yo-yo. But every little failure, every little setback, it teaches you a very important lesson, and that is the deposit you are making into yourself as an intrinsic value, right? So
Wow.
the only thing I look at is, am I more valuable today intrinsically than yesterday? Because I know I can generate the income or the wealth given the right circumstances and the right time and the strategy and everything. But am I able to capitalize those on those opportunities? Am I able to recognize them or not? Because if I'm not gaining in that aspect, I'm still the same factory worker who will continue to earn $2 a day and never know anything else exists outside of that world, right?
Right.
So the idea
Yeah.
is to gain that knowledge and then use that to say, okay, how much am I worth today? Forget about all the possessions you have, all the bank account. How much am I worth today, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I love that perspective because it actually then gives you the confidence that you mentioned earlier that the money gives you.
Yeah,
um,
exactly.
and I think that the entrepreneurs, maybe tell me if you agree with this, but the yo-yo, we fall and we get up and we fall and we get up and we have a couple of wins and then we fall and we get up, but we do that enough. And then coupled with the experience of the knowledge that you're obtaining, like you were just talking about, is like, I now believe that it doesn't matter. It can all be taken and I'll just start again tomorrow because of what I
Exactly.
have here and
Yeah,
in my belief. Is that the
exactly.
formula?
Absolutely. Because you see, the thing is that we start to generate these fears in our psyche and say, okay, what will happen if I lose all my money? I mean, just go through that exercise and say, okay, what will happen? Okay, I will lose all my money, but then I will also have all the courage to go and ask everyone to say, hey, this is what I'm working on today. Do you want to join me or not? And I'll have a lot of time because I've no other obligations but to focus on this. So no matter what happens, I will figure it out. But why am I doing this? That's another aspect of this equation. You have to find a purpose. You have to find a why of that is more valuable for you to take that short term pain to be able to go to the next level.
Yeah.
In my case, it's the biggest why I have is my two sons, my family. If I'm able to do well, I'm able to give them good education and whatnot, the typical parenting thing, that will be good for them. But not only that, but I'm in a position to actually shift the world of technology and paves better path for them, new careers or whatever. That's even a bigger why for me, right?
Yeah.
So now the thing is that if, as human beings, as caring and loving human beings, we tend to do more things for our loved ones than we can do for ourselves, right?
That's right.
So if you attach your why to whatever you are trying to do, the business you're trying to build, anything that you're trying to do, that why is the one force that is always going to be pushing you ahead. And these fears will basically eliminate themselves because your why is so big that nothing comes in the way after that, nothing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, because you're willing to risk it all. I love the example of going through just like what actually will happen. I've done the
Mhm.
same thing. Okay, so if I and worst case scenario, what if I lose it all and then I owe a bunch of people money? Just worst case scenario. Play through that because actually what Manuj has given to you here as a listener, he's saying work through the information so that it's not scary. You know what to do in that scenario if it were to come, not so that you're planning for that, but so that you can say, oh, well, okay, well, I guess I would just start again or whatever your answer is, which then gives you the confidence that he's talking about of going, well, now I have the courage, I guess, just to go do whatever it is, whatever mountain is in front of me or decision or my family for that matter.
One more thing here, the real fear that we feel is what will people say. When
Absolutely.
we think when we think about going bankrupt or whatever, I think it's less the fear of losing the money, but it's more what will people say. So when you
Yeah.
play it out or it actually happens, you have lived it. The fear is gone. People have trust me, people have too much on their plate to think about you. They don't give a
That's
damn. So
they don't care. That is 100%
yeah.
accurate. I agree. Okay, Manoj, you've made some really good decisions along the way. I'm sure of it. Not only have you created a great business for yourself and podcast, we're going to get to that hopefully soon, but you've also helped lots of other business owners too. So, what's one clearly good decision that you've made that we can go learn from? Maybe it's AI related, maybe it's not, practically in your business.
Learn communications. I grew up an introvert, and then I got education in engineering and computer science. And
Wow.
generally engineers are introverts, a lot of people are
Robots.
introverts. Yeah. And what I find is that again, in the industrial society, we tend to hide behind our talents, our skills, our titles, and we say, oh, I have a PhD in computer science, so the world should pay notice me or should give me opportunities or blah blah blah. But we forget that those every little thing in our life is given to us through a conversation with somebody else.
That's
whether
right.
you get a
Wow.
job, that's through an interview, you get a business deal, it's through a negotiation. Even our life is given to us as a result of a conversation our parents had,
Yeah. That was a
right?
pretty interesting
So
conversation, but yes. Yeah.
yes, exactly. So the paramount importance, and this is the funniest thing that I realized after I went through. As an introvert, I used to be an unpleasant person to talk to. As an engineer, like I was like a black and white. Okay, either it made sense to me, or I'll say, "Oh, this is pretty stupid. Where did you you have no brain?" So people get offended by that, right? And then I started to realize, what was happening, how I was like creating enemies around me. And then I learned the importance of communication. And the
Wow.
funny thing is, we could have avoided all these problems in not only my life, but in a lot of people's lives, if we just started teaching these things in fifth grade, sixth grade. We teach math and
Yes.
physics and everything, but we never say, "Oh, by the way, there are 30 human beings in the classroom. Here's the manual for you to communicate with them."
I know.
So it's just so damn stupid, in my opinion, and that's
Yeah.
where
See, you still got a little bit of that in you,
yeah,
which I
exactly,
appreciate though.
exactly, yeah,
I can't tell you how much I relate to that because I too, believe it or not, I am an introvert. So we're both learned extroverts, it sounds like. And so at the end of the day, it's like, okay, the skill of communication allows for all of the other skills for you, computer science, technology, AI, intelligence. Let's just say you're just really, really smart. And for me, maybe it's, all the skills that I learned in sales or in business strategy or whatever. It's like all of those things get magnified because of the communication tool. So you can have all the
yeah,
skills, to your point,
yeah,
but
yeah,
be quiet in the dark. Nobody knows about you because you don't know how to communicate or get known or, be a pleasant individual.
yeah, exactly,
I think
yeah,
that there's a lot of entrepreneurs listening right now. And whether they've grown a really big business or whether they're just getting started, they're thinking trade. Like, let me get good at this trade or the skill. Let me get good at, you know, doing the thing well, having a great product, having a great service, which all that's definitely important. But what you're really highlighting is really the client journey or just the ability to build a team. Like it's like all the other pieces of business that are very much centered around communication, leadership, you know, again, being somebody that people want to follow, want to do business with,
yeah.
want to interact with. You said you were creating enemies by being an introvert, being black and white. Go a little further into that because I'm sure there's people here listening right now that would benefit from that.
See, the thing is that most of us have been taught that whatever the way that you think about problems or the world is the way that everybody else thinks about it. Meaning, I'm an engineer. Okay, every problem that comes across to me, even if I'm thinking about parenting problems or relationship problems, I'm going to apply my engineering skills to solve it because that's the way everything works. And the
Right.
and the thing is that as you grow older, or in my case, like I had a lot of challenges in my personal relationships, which led me down, suicidal thoughts and depression and whatnot, which then forced me to look at myself and say, how am I? What is my role in this whole mess that I have created for myself?
Yeah.
And and it led me to this conclusion that I was not honoring other people's opinions. Everybody has their own background, their own life experience. So instead of saying, "Oh, this is the only way to do it," I have to start asking questions. "Oh, this is very interesting perspective that you are bringing in. I have never considered it. Tell me more. Let's go deeper
Yeah.
into it." And then we
Wow.
start to exchange ideas. And out of those conversations, I see that I can accept some of their ideas, I can put in some of my ideas, which gives rise to yet another idea, which we had not even considered, neither one of us.
Right.
So this exchange started to bring in more richness into life. You
Yeah.
start to build better relationships, you start to understand people. And not only that, but I'm also spiritual and I meditate a lot. But effectively, what happens is when you get into a deeper conversation like this one, you also start to reflect on your own self awareness. It starts to
Yeah.
teach you about
Yeah.
yourself. So,
Right.
that's what happened by moving away from building enemies. Because to answer your question, when you don't listen to other people's opinions, they'll just say, I don't want to talk to him. So
Yeah.
that's the kind of environment I was creating around myself.
Hey, kings and queens, Chaz Wolfe. I want to talk to you about something that's super important to me. We put a lot of time and effort, we meaning myself and my team, into this podcast, into the content that goes out every single day. And if you have been getting any sort of value or insight from this, we want it to be able to reach other business owners too. So we would love if you would like, comment, share, leave a review, post, share again, all of the things on social media, on all the different platforms, or even on the podcast mediums of Apple and Spotify. We would love to be able to get our content into more hands, more entrepreneurs, so they can grow their business as quick as possible. Together, we are building a community of like-minded entrepreneurs who are committed to growing their businesses to new heights. So let's do this. Let's help each other. Let's help each other grow. Yeah. Gosh, so much value there. Well, I guess let me simply ask if I'm presenting it right to the listener, because I really want them to get this. I think if we didn't have a conversation at all about AI and this was it, I still think it would just be so impactfully valuable. Someone who acknowledges that they're maybe not right all the time. That's what I heard you say. Number one is that maybe, just maybe, the way that life is going, even though I think I'm right all the time, if I really look at the way things are going in my life, I'm actually not happy. So that means I need to change the way I'm doing things, which then for you gave you the ability to pivot and recognize that there's another person in the conversation and that they too are human and that they have their own point of view, which then, third step, leads you to curiosity. Okay, wow, there's another human in front of me. Let me get to know them. How they might think differently. Maybe it adds value to me, which then, you can almost take that as a little bit selfish. Like, I'm so selfish right now because I'm learning from Manuj. I'm just like, can't wait to get all my questions out because I'm selfishly wanting to grow. But it's like, in all seriousness, that's how the conversation grows, the relationship grows, everybody grows, right?
Exactly.
Okay, we'll take those 3 steps. I want you to flip the coin here. Tell us about a bad decision, practically, that you kind of just gave us a little bit of.
Yeah.
But maybe give us something in AI. What are people doing right now in AI, or what have you done with your technology background that just was like, ugh, that was a bad move. Don't do this.
Well, there are so many mistakes we make all day. Technology is all about experimentation. So with AI, for example, right now, the whole world, in the AI world is using ChatGPT to write books, to write essays, to write, like to speed things up that we generally do. And we need to write. And so, in my opinion, it's not a mistake, but I think people just don't realize what this technology is. So it's so much more powerful than just being able to help you write your email or create a social media post, because it has the power to find solutions for climate change. It has the power to find cures for diseases. It has the power to figure out how we can live up to 150 years. So that's the level of intelligence we have been granted, and we are using it for menial purposes, like, oh, okay, help me write this email. There is no harm there. There's no mistake there. We do that too. I believe we make a mistake, but the thing is, the mistake here is that not realizing, oh, this is so powerful, it can be applied in every aspect of everybody's life. AI is as powerful and essential as electricity or fire. So,
Wow, that's huge.
so yeah, so that's how we should start thinking about it. And it took us, it took me a while to realize the power of all this. And so a lot of people are still using it in
Yeah.
or looking at it in a wrong way.
Yeah, well, if you're the AI voice going around doing hundreds of podcasts right now, and it took you a minute, it's going to take a minute for everybody else. But, yes, there's a lot of people using ChatGPT. Still many, many millions that have no idea what you're even talking about. I think everybody pretty much listening to this show is going to at least have heard of it, probably using it. But then what you said, the tip of the spear is like they're using it to help them, write a social media post. Okay, fine. Not that is bad, but there's so much more to it. So give us open our brains here. Open us up.
Yeah.
What should we be using it for? I know you
Yeah.
kind of gave off some things there, some really, really big things, but like individually,
Yeah.
what should we be using it for?
Yeah. So let's break it down, right? So any organization, any leader of an organization, they want to grow the organization, they want to grow the business. The number one factor of the growth of the business is their team, universally, right? So if you have a good team, people who are dedicated and skilled, the business will really work. So now you imagine tomorrow you find a person who has a PhD in sales, PhD in operations, marketing, history, anthropology, psychology, you name it. They have a PhD in that. And they never sleep. They are available 24/7 and they're almost free. And you hire them, right? And now you tell them, okay, you know what? I want to launch a new product. My target audience is 35-year-old single mothers and I want to help them, and they live in this suburb. And so tell me what kind of product I can market to them. And this smart individual is going to give you like 15 ideas. And then you can say, okay, oh, I like the number 13 here. So let me give me some marketing strategies on how I can, get this off the ground. It'll give that to you. And then they'll say, oh, okay, this is a long-term marketing strategy. What can I do today, like right now, to do this? And it'll give you that strategy. And then it'll say, oh, okay, can you write me can you write like a landing page copy for me so that I can share it with. And then it'll do that. And then you say, oh, okay, somebody has signed up, I need to send them a NDA and a contract. Can you write that for me? It'll do that. So you can imagine all of these things are now in your hands. In fact, here is a prediction from me. In the next 7 years, we will start to see companies going public with one employee because everything else will be done by AI.
Manuj, you just said that people are going to be going public with one employee.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome in one respect. As an entrepreneur, we're just like, yeah, like, okay, I hire one guy or gal, ChatGPT and or the like, whatever it is, Bart, whoever it's going to be, and then now I can run my business with me and him or her. But there's also a lot of effect on the people that maybe would have been hired. What are your thoughts there?
See, it all depends on your perspective, whether you look at opportunity or loss of opportunity. There's going to be fundamental shifts happening in the socioeconomic setup of our societies because of AI.
I agree.
And there is no denying that. But rather than lamenting the loss of or displacement, I don't think jobs are going to be removed, but I think they will be displaced by people who use AI. So it's not that AI will replace you, but somebody who knows AI will replace you. So that's fundamentally one thing. Secondly, why most people will love freedom and having their destiny in their own hands over and above everything else. But we have shaped this capitalist society because you need a lot of resources and a lot of lot of experience, thinking power to establish a business. So it is somewhat of as we discussed earlier, it's a leap of faith that most people cannot take. So now, if the probability of your failure comes way down, and the resources you need to start the business come way down, entrepreneurship actually becomes a very, very attractive alternate to job. And that's what exactly is going to happen, because the barriers to entry will come way down. That's exactly what is going to happen. So if you are thinking about, my job is going to be lost, think about the 1,000 times more brighter future that is ahead for you to do what you want to do. The second thing is, again, a lot of people misunderstand what work is. Okay, so for industry, so let's quickly, because I look at long term evolutionary cycles and see what is happening. So we don't need to go far, but let's just go 100 years back. The definition of work for 99.9% of the population on this planet was working every waking hour in the field just to be, just to sustain their family. Everybody used to do that, right?
Yeah.
Then industrialization came, and The definition of work became, okay, we go to a place for 40 hours a day, we do whatever they ask us to do, and then we get a weekend, and that's the definition of work. Okay. Now, in 2000, year 2020, everybody in the world experienced a new definition of work, which was just stay at home, don't do anything, I'll pay you. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So you have to be able to understand the environment and be flexible with that. So moving forward, what will be the definition of work? The definition of work will be what we have been talking about: listening and understanding the environment around you, the problems people are facing, and then utilizing your resources and AI and all of these things to put solutions together so that you can serve them better. Music, poetry, art, these things will start to become really, really valuable because everything else will be automated. So, humans, we tend to go through these cycles. So again, to look at history in the 15th century, that's exactly what happened in Europe. Renaissance period was a 250 year period where poets, musicians, painters, they were at the top of society. They were the ministers, they were the court, the top people in the courtrooms and king's court. So that's exactly what is going to start happening again. So people really need to think in a broader term to understand this world and what is happening and what is the impact of AI, so that they can take these right decisions. Because otherwise we'll just be focused on, okay, my job, my job, my job, which is
Right.
which is very short sighted.
Yeah. You mentioned a little bit ago that basically it's not AI that's going to take the position. It's going to be somebody who knows AI. And then you also mentioned at the beginning that it's really just like you get on the board on the boat and win, like really win, generational wealth win is what you said, or go extinct. And it didn't
Yeah.
seem like there was much in between there. And so for the guy listening right now, or the gal that's either in business, or maybe they're like you're saying, they're thinking about starting up a business, and okay, chat GPT sounds really cool, but that's like the beginning of it. What can they be thinking if they're really not on board right now, or just like, oh, like I'm not technological, I don't do IT, like it's really hard for me, fill in the blank on whatever
Sure.
limiting belief that they have.
Okay. So let me first clarify what I mean by the amount of how big the opportunity is and all of that. I'll walk you through the whole thing, right? So these are not my words. These are the words of the CEO of IBM, one of the largest technology companies in the world. AI is going to add about 10 trillion. So that's trillion with a T to the world economy by 2030. So
Wow.
people who can, obviously trillion is a big number, but what does that mean is today the total world GDP, meaning everything that we produce as humanity on this in this 1 year on this planet, is $96 trillion. Okay.
Okay.
So that means in the next 7 years we will be producing just by AI more than 10% of the whole world. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how big the impact is. And then Peter Diamandis and others, CEO of Google, they have said that there's going to be two types of businesses by the end of decade. Again, 7 years: businesses who use AI and businesses who are out of business. So
Mm.
again, the same thing as extinction. That is the opportunity that we have in front of us. In terms of being averse to technology, we all use technology, AI, every day. Like this recording that we are doing right now, the video and
Hmm.
audio is being optimized by AI. If we take out the device on our from our pockets, everything on that device is controlled by AI. So it's a misnomer that, oh, AI will come in future. It's already here. The second thing is, you don't need to understand technology to be able to use it. So we don't know, most people don't know how email works. Most people don't know how when I type in something in the browser, how it takes me to the internet, or when I launch an app, or even when I start the car, I have no freaking idea how the gas goes into the engine, blah blah blah.
That's right.
I just know it takes me there, right? So you don't need to really understand it. The only thing is, you people have this Terminator style image of AI, and that's why they get scared. So if you can get
Yeah.
over that, it's just like any other technology. And the other thing is, whether you like it or not, as I said, you are already using AI and people get used to it slowly over time. I'll give you a concrete example. The very first time I used internet was in 1993. Okay.
Wow.
In 1998, if I did not have an email address, I was not even able to apply for an entry level job just in 5 years.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So now it is my choice. I can say I refuse to use email, you know, and where do you think that will land me? The point is, if you don't use it, you're going to be left behind.
Yeah. And if we look at history, that's in essence what happens is that you have, the first movers where it's under the radar and most people don't even know what's happening. It begins to pick up momentum where we get a little bit of craziness going on, and it's like no, that'll never happen, and they're crazy, and whew, thank goodness I'm not them. They're taking all the risk.
Yeah.
And then it picks up momentum, and then it's like we're not the tipping point yet, not at mass adoption,
Yeah.
but we're now enough to where it's like, okay, people are really starting to talk about this. It's coming to hand. And then the kicking and the screaming all come full blown. And those people either get on the boat or they don't, or,
Yeah.
die out, like literally, or they just, they're no longer in business. And so I think that I think that you painted the right picture for us, because it's happened over and over and over again in society, even in America with different products. So what do you think is the hopeful message here? I mean, we've kind of talked about like, hey, either get on it or get out of it, and not necessarily doom and gloom, but we've kind of it's black or white. Like you either figure it out or you don't. What's the beauty past maybe 2030? What does all this look like 100 years from now, do you think?
Oh, it's a fantastic time because so far industrialization and capitalism has dwindled the resources to a few, meaning people who can take the risk and whatnot, right? The cost of living is going high and all of that. Now, with automation, with AI, um, the cost of the goods that we consume will come down. Okay, about 60 to 70% of the cost of goods, people don't realize it, is basically the services that are needed around the whole infrastructure that we have built, like banking, insurance, and all of that. If you think about what is a bank, it's basically a way for us to arbitrage our trust, because we cannot trust each other inherently. We go to a bank, we pay hefty fee and say, oh, I trust you, but I can't trust this other guy, right? Insurance, the insurance is the same way. So the
Yeah.
cost of whatever, let's say you buy your phone, it costs you $1,000. The services aspect of that cost is more than 60%, you know. So
Yeah.
with AI taking over, immediately the cost of goods come down, meaning more people can afford what they want to afford. Then the other thing is dispersion of population, because as we saw in during COVID times, we have these crowded mega cities where the centers of commerce have been established and people have to physically go there and live in very tight quarters or whatever to be able
Uh-huh.
to avail those opportunities. But now we saw it with during COVID times, anybody can work from anywhere. People moved out to farmhouses and whatnot. So you'll start to see in 100 years, like this whole earth will be covered rather than just a few pockets of population.
Yeah.
The other thing is, like, personalized medicine is going to be there. Today, when we have any medicine, it will cure our problem, but 5% of the chances are that you will experience some side effect, because again, as we talked about earlier, these companies cannot like 100% match that medicine to my DNA is different than yours. But and this is actually happening today, right now, somebody can examine your DNA and custom make a new medicine for you, personally for you, with zero side effects, right? So these are the type of things that we can start to see. I think driving will be made illegal for humans in the next 15 years or so. So all
Wow.
the road rage or accidents and all of that, all gone,
Goes away.
right?
Wow. Wow. That last little piece, it wasn't 100 years from now. You brought me back down to home. I'm going to be here in 15 years. And not that I have road rage. I used to, but not anymore. All these things are really incredible for us to think about, a utopia of sorts. You've given us a lot of practicals here, Manuj. You've talked about what the next 100 years looks like as well. You've given us kind of the contrast. One last little maybe tidbit here on AI, as far as maybe what you or your team are working on like today, what maybe the listener can also be working on today.
Yeah. So we are working on basically creating private AI for companies. So, as an entrepreneur, as a leader, you want to replicate your mind. You want to use your insights and experience and say, okay, this is how I would solve this problem. This is how I will create a proposal. This is how I will pitch to a client. And imagine if you can replicate your mind and give it to, your entire team and say, this is
There you
me,
go. Right.
so that's what we are working on. So we are, as I told you, like, we are also working on coming up with new AI that teaches music. We are working with a marketing company, optimizing marketing campaigns, creating RFP responses. We are working with the Hollywood group who's trying. I mean, there's a lot of contention there about, there's a huge strike going on and everything, but there are people trying to understand, okay, how AI can be beneficial to this industry. We are working
Yeah.
with accounting companies, finance, wealth management companies, you name it. I mean, the people who realize the value of it, they are trying to get ahead so that they can become more competitive and take advantage of this window of opportunity. This window of opportunity is like maybe next 12 months or so, and millions and billions of dollars will exchange hands in this time period.
Yeah. Wow. That's a call to excellence. It's a call to creativity. It's a call to get in and get it figured out, see how it applies to your business. I want to ask you a question a little bit outside of AI. I want to ask you about family. And obviously with your story and then how many people you've helped, it's like this unique, very, persona that you have of helping the world, but you also mentioned your family. And so what are you doing to obsess over your family? I use the word obsess because that gets me fired up. I don't know if it does for you, but I want to go after my business and all my dreams, the stuff that we've been talking about, and my marriage and my kids. How are you doing that?
Well, my marriage was over during COVID, so I tried to save it, but it didn't work. But my sons, I see them as very lucky and also a little bit intimidating for them, because we are going through such a rapid change in human evolution. Our minds are not they, our minds have evolved to tolerate slow changes over decades or centuries. And
Lifetime, yeah.
in the last 20 years, like, the whole world has shifted so rapidly, and that is why you see a lot of anxiety, a lot of mental health problems, because nothing else more than just the amount of stimulus we are consuming. We are not designed Our minds are not designed to consume all that. So with my kids, it's more about, again, teaching them the importance of communication is number one, and then teaching them the importance of self-awareness, which is, again, you know the solutions lie within, not outside. So when you start to go within, what happens outside becomes irrelevant, because we already talked about that. Once you start to value your inside, you have the confidence to deal with any situation outside, right? So that's
Yeah.
another thing. And then the last thing is having more international exposure, because I feel like we are getting into a world where boundaries and borders will become invisible. They are already invisible, but they will continue to become more and more invisible, especially as the virtual reality and the real reality start to come so close together. We will not be able to distinguish it. I could just say, okay, I'm going to do this episode sitting on the top of Eiffel Tower in virtual reality. Take me there, and you will, and me, we will not be able to tell the virtual reality is separate from real reality. So in that environment, the kids need to have more exposure about how the world is like, in the entire
Yeah.
world, because no longer we will be sort of constrained to our city or our province or state or our country. We all will need to, by de facto, become international citizens.
Yeah. Yeah. The playground has gotten bigger.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that.
Exactly.
One last question here for you, Manuj. You've got just this high intelligence and even just how you were teaching your kids. I'm taking notes over here, but if you had a chance to whisper to you as a younger version, whatever age that would be, you tap on your shoulder, whisper in your ear, what do you tell that guy?
Don't give in to the fear, because I've given in to the fear. And, even though I have had so many tremendous opportunities and successes, I could have had 100 times more if I didn't give in to the fear in certain situations. For example, when my bank balance dipped below a certain level, I, got stuck. But now I know that fear is what you need to lean into. If you're scared of something, you lean into that. I'm afraid of heights, I go bungee jumping. I when my when my bank balance below dips below a certain level, then I say, okay, let me hire one more person and go faster at this. Let's see what the future has in store for us.
Yeah. I a lot of wisdom, a lot of joy, really. So funny hearing that you used to be an introvert that created enemies, because today I think that you've created a bunch of adversaries, people that are on your team, ones that are rooting for you. I mean, gosh, you're rooting for yourself, so you don't need us. But man, it has been a joy, a pleasure, really. How can the listener find your company, number one, if they need software and IT AI solutions? Or two, if they just want to connect with you as an entrepreneur, how can they find you that way? And
The
also, what's
best
your
thing is,
podcast?
yeah. So my podcast is called Bootstrapping Your Dreams, and what we do is we just share the stories of people who came from nothing and made big impact in the world. And the purpose is to show people, the audience, that you really don't need much to be able to fulfill your dreams, other than your own belief in yourself, and a few other things that we talked about during this episode. So when you hear other people's stories, again, you get inspiration from that. And then the best way to connect with me will be, my company name is TetraNoodle Technologies. Find me on LinkedIn, or just Google my name and click on the first link that comes up. It could be my personal website or my LinkedIn. But just let me know you heard me on this podcast. What are you trying to do? What are your aspirations with AI, and how can we help?
You've just been an incredible guest to open our minds, and I hope that people connect with you in that way. So thank you again, Manuj, not only for just being here, but giving of yourself, blessings to your family, all the actually literal things that you're going to touch through AI over these next probably 100+ years. It's been a pleasure getting to know you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. Thanks.
Thank you for listening to Gathering the Kings today. I hope that you were able to pull out a few nuggets to go apply into your business right away. More importantly, though, I hope that you're realizing that it takes more to be successful than just being by yourself, doing it all on your own, carrying the weight all by yourself. What I have realized, not only in my own journey from multiple businesses and multiple different industries, and now interviewing over 200 or 300 other very successful 7, 8, and 9-figure business owners, is that it's tough to do it alone. And so Gathering the Kings exists to bring together successful entrepreneurs. In fact, we are putting together 1,000 kings, specifically who are grateful but not done. We're intentionally assembling kings who fight tooth and nail for their business, family, and communities. And here's what we believe, that in the pursuit of excellence in those areas, that it ignites within us the responsibility to govern power and forge a lasting legacy. So if that relates and resonates with you, and you know that you need people around you, sharp, qualified, other very successful business owners, I want you to go to gatheringthekings.com. I want you to take a look at what we're doing and see if it makes sense for you to be part of our pursuit to 1,000 kings. Talk soon.